burning west of San Antonio. Medina County, which is
Instantly connects you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
I'm Sherry Preston, ABC News.
This is ONN.
I'm Dave James on the Ohio News Network. 4 people, 3 of them children, were killed in a car crash near Wauseon, west of Toledo, late Saturday night. Troopers say a 21-year-old man who survived failed to yield at an intersection and hit a car with 5 people in it, killing everyone but the driver. Candidates for some of the statewide races for the May primary are debating today and tomorrow on the campuses of Wilberforce and Central State Universities. Bennett Haberly with ONN affiliate WBNS TV in Columbus reports.
The Ohio Debate Commission will host 3 debates over the next 2 days. Monday, you'll hear from the U.S. Senate Democratic candidates at 11 a.m. U.S. Senate Republican candidates will face off at 7, and the Ohio gubernatorial Democratic candidates will wrap up on Tuesday night. By the way, the gubernatorial Republican debate was canceled.
That debate was called off after Governor Mike DeWine declined to participate in it. Drama continues over the Ohio Redistricting Commission's struggle to come up with new legislative maps that are not gerrymandered in favor of Republicans as the May primary election draws closer.
Federal judges requested to help in the struggle have proposed reducing the early voting period to keep the May 3rd primary alive. The group has asked Republican Secretary of State Frank LaRose to determine if such a change would be illegal. The Ohio Redistricting Commission must also consider adopting new state house maps sometime today. 3 previous sets were found unlawful by the Ohio Supreme Court. Eric Brown, ONN News.
And I'm Dave James on the Ohio News Network.
Live and local conversation for the Ohio Valley continues shortly here on the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. 1 in 3. That means it could be you, your football buddy, your football buddy, or you, your best man, your worst man, you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. While 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes, with early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Hi, this is Sandy Rios. You know, there's only one proven conservative fighter in the race for the U.S. Senate. Do you know who it is? Well, it's Josh Mandel. As treasurer, Josh was the only statewide official to support the heartbeat bill. It's Josh Mandel. He stood up in the Capitol when they tried to stop Christian prayer. It's Josh Mandel. He worked hard for 8 years to open the books for Ohio taxpayers. It's Josh Mandel. He had the guts to stand up to anti-Trump Governor John Kasich. It's Josh Mandel. He stood with parents against critical race theory. Josh Mandel, a proven fighter on the battlefield, will be a conservative fighter in the U.S. Senate. On May 3rd, vote for a candidate who time after time has fought for you and your family's conservative values. Elect Josh Mandel in the Ohio U.S. Senate Republican primary.
Paid for by Patriotic Veterans, Inc., a 501c4 committee, not coordinated with any candidate or campaign committee.
For all of your IT needs, visit OmniPerforms.com. Omni Strategic Technologies, the only IT company that the Watchdog trusts.
Did you know that Masterforce has thousands of tools at Menards? Any tool you want, we have. There are hammers, drills, pliers, levels, wrenches, grinders, sanders, air compressors, nailers, workbenches, mowers, blowers, chainsaws, floor jacks, knee pads, work lights, fans. Whew. And that's just a taste. Want power, performance, durability? Come check out the wide range of products from Masterforce, exclusively at Menards.
A serious injury from an accident can be just the start of your worries. What if you cannot return to work? How do you take care of your family if you're disabled? At Gelner Law Offices, we represent seriously injured people and understand their problem. We know how to get you fair compensation. We will work hard to make sure you get the money you deserve for your losses. Don't go it alone. If you're hurt in an accident, call us at 304-242-2900 or visit us at gelnerlaw.com.
We'd like to help.
More live and local programming than anyone else in the Ohio Valley. The Watchdog returns in moments. The views and opinions expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of this station or its sponsors.
What is that noise?
Well, good morning, sunshine.
Well, the bad news is it is Monday.
Ugh, Monday.
Monday.
What? It's Monday already?
Come on, lazy bones. It's time to get moving.
I'm up.
Now let's get back to work, hey?
Why are we all forced to go to work? I got bills to pay.
Great. Let's get started.
Okay, everybody, it's showtime.
Live from the Robinson Auto Group studios, this is the Valley's longest-running morning show, the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe from WKKX and WVLY.
It's so true, isn't it? Why do we have to go to work, says that guy in the opening there. The other guy says, because I got bills to pay. I mean, it's the bottom line. Little grandson Teddy from time to time, gets a little upset. Mommy and Daddy are working. Even Granddad has to work sometimes here on the radio. Granddad, why do you all have to work? Why does Mommy have to work and not play with me? Because you want a lot of toys. Because you like good things. And Granddad and Grandma and Mommy and Daddy have to make sure that they can afford to get them. He kind of understands that. But, yeah. Why do you have to go to work? I need the money. 9:10, 10 minutes after the hour here on the Watchdog Morning Show. Boy, it's cold outside. We've picked up a degree, but only a degree. 23 at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport. That's got a feels like temperature of 12 degrees. 20 degrees here at my home studios, 20 degrees at the Robinson Auto Group studios, downtown Wheeling in the heart of the Ohio Valley. We will get probably no more than a 10-degree increase over the course of the day today. We're looking at a high of around 32, probably some flurries kind of on and off throughout at least the morning. Maybe see a little sun trying to peek through later in the day today. But then we warm up till we hit 70 come Wednesday. So what a weird week it is. Rain in the midweek. Where have we been? Where are we going? What are we doing this morning here on the Watchdog Morning Show? Just got done talking about the incident, the fatal shooting in Wheeling over a week ago. And as expected on Friday of last week, a group of family and friends of the victim gathered in front of Wheeling City Hall demanding justice for Fresh, Black Lives Matter, those sorts of things. They went in to see the council when it was meeting. At the same time, they were holding their little protest outside. Councilwoman Rosemary Ketchum shared her concern and her support. Wheeling Mayor Glenn Elliott said, look, we don't know any more than you do, and it's none of our business. The police department is not run by Wheeling City Council, but if we discover something wrong occurred, we'll certainly look into it, and that's been my position as well. We just don't know. The police have investigated now for over a week. The shooter turned himself in. I mean, he's the one who called 911 and said, I shot and killed a guy. But the shooter said it was self-defense. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I don't know. We should know. We should get more info. So we've been talking about that again this morning. Another deadline day for Ohio's much debated and delayed redistricting maps. A delay in election day for some races seems to be a very real possibility now. Some groups want to make sure that if there is a delay, the whole election is delayed and not part of the election held once and the rest of it held later. Mary Sherman has details on that coming up a bit later on. President Biden said Putin cannot remain in power. Was it an ad lib? Was it a policy statement? Was it a frustration statement? The world is trying to figure it out. We'll talk about that and have more on the Ukraine coming up in just a bit. We're also going to talk about Trump and Putin and tyrants and all that kind of stuff with the author of a book on tyrants in just a minute or two. But before I get to that, just real quick, because the crazy story of the night last night, and I never watched the Oscars. I never watched the Oscars. Anymore, I don't watch any movies. The movies I watch are on TV or on streaming services. It's been a while since I've been to the theater, and so I don't watch them. I look at the list of the Best Picture nominees or Best Picture winners and stuff. I don't know any of them. But I do know that there was a heck of an incident last night that got everybody talking as Chris Rock, the master of ceremonies, was making some jokes. And the theme of this round of jokes were celebrity couples in the audience. And he went to Will Smith and Will Smith's wife, Jada Pinkett Smith, and she has a disease that is causing her to lose her hair. She's talked about it. She's made it very public. And so he made a joke, he being Chris Rock, made a joke about G.I. Jane. G.I. Jane is the movie in which Demi Moore had a shaved head. So he made a joke about that. Will Smith laughed. If you watch it, Will Smith laughed. And then suddenly Will Smith gets up and he walks up on stage and he punches Chris Rock like this.
Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right? that was a nice one. Okay. I'm out here. Uh-oh, Richard. Oh, wow.
The oh wow came after Will Smith literally punched him in the face. Then he went back and sat down and swore at Chris Rock afterwards.
Will Smith just smacked the out of me. Wow, dude. Yes. It was a G.I. Jane joke.
Keep my wife's name out your mouth.
People are saying we shouldn't laugh about this. This was assault, and it was. I mean, this guy got up and punched him. It was assault, but holy mackerel, holy mackerel. ABC's Jason Nathanson was behind stage when all this happened and filed a report about everybody talking about it.
It was absolute craziness back here. When, seemingly making a joke, Chris Rock talked about Jada Pinkett Smith, Will Smith's wife, and her short hair. Will Smith was having none of it, walked up on stage and smacked Chris Rock in the face, and then sat down and yelled curse words from the audience. We were all wondering, was this a joke? Did this actually happen? Well, Will Smith seemingly just confirmed that he actually did do that. In his acceptance speech, he won Best Actor and spent most of his speech apologizing, talking about how he wants to be an ambassador for love, saying he was sorry to the Academy, to all his fellow nominees, and Denzel Washington said to him during the break, "At your highest moment, be careful. That's when the devil comes for you." And apparently, that's what happened.
He apologized to his fellow nominees. He apologized to the Academy. He did not apologize to Chris Rock, whom he smacked in the face. Hey, at least from the Oscars point of view, at least we're talking about the Oscars this morning, huh? All right. It's 9:17 here on the Watchdog Morning Show. We have spent so much time in the last several years, certainly in the past year since the insurrection of January 6th last year, talking about Trump and talking about his attitude, his autocratic approach to things, his acolytes and his followers. A lot of us have kind of struggled to try to find the right word to use for Donald Trump. And now we got this whole Ukrainian thing where we're maybe struggling to find what word do we use for President Putin as well. The issue is an interesting one, and Andrew Fiala is a professor of philosophy and director of the Ethics Center at Fresno State and has written a book, Tyranny, From Plato to Trump, which is interesting. Fools, sycophants, and citizens. It's really an interesting approach to things. Professor, good morning. Welcome to the show, first of all.
Hi, Howard. Thanks for having me on.
So, I guess I never... The lineage goes from Plato to Trump. I never thought of Trump being in a lineage that begins with Plato.
Well, it's a bad news story, right? It's not that I'm not suggesting that Trump is a Plato. It's rather that Plato saw Trump coming. Plato. I mean, the ancient Greeks gave us the language, as you said, gave us the terminology that I think helps us make sense a bit of what's going on with Trump and his friends and followers.
I always have trouble trying to. I mean, let's be brutally honest. First of all, get politics up front. I despise Donald Trump, and I despise all that he has done to this country. So that's my political bias. So you know where it is. But I struggle a lot in the 4 years he was in office. The last couple of years he's been out, to find quite the right word to use to describe him. You think tyrant is an acceptable word?
Well, I think we need to be careful when we use that word because violence is in the background when we start using the word tyranny or tyrant. I think Trump has a kind of personality that points in the direction of tyranny. But the good news story I tell in the book is that our Constitution prevents tyrants, right? It's designed in order to prevent tyrants from coming to power. And yet, it's still helpful to think about Trump with that lens or that vantage point on the history of tyranny, because there's a long and terrifying history of what happens when tyrannical personality types end up in power and then consolidate power. And the gist of that story is that for the tyrant, it's all about him. It's all about pride. This word hubris shows up in the ancient Greek tradition. Mm-hmm. Hubris is sort of like pride without restraint. It's self-inflated, narcissistic, egoistic, megalomaniac, however you want to think about, all these terrible terms that we could apply. It's always all about the tyrant. And the tyrant doesn't care about morality. There's no limits, which is then why lying and manipulation and a refusal to admit reality, all of that is in the background when we think about the tyrants of history.
Well, but it also defines Donald Trump, does it not?
Yeah. Well, so, in the book, one of the things I do is I read a lot of his work. I read books that he supposedly had written or had ghostwritten for him. I went through his Twitter feed in a systematic fashion. I looked at his speeches, including like State of the Union speeches, and I did an ethical analysis of his words and writing. And what I discovered is that he just is inarticulate in terms of morality. He doesn't use moral language. He uses words like value, but it always has to do with like real estate, like market value. And in that regard, that's kind of one of the dangers is that his vocabulary, his worldview just does not include morality. And that's something Plato warned us about, that the tyrannical types, they actually think that morality is all about power and self-interest, which is wrong. And that's why they're so dangerous. And that's why, in a sense, it's hard to argue with people like that, right? And by the way, we have these people in our families. We have them in our businesses, right? It's a common spiritual problem where people really just don't have a moral vocabulary and they misunderstand the world as a result, and they're dangerous.
I want to parse language here a bit, because you say he doesn't have a moral vocabulary, that he is morally inarticulate. It would seem to me that it's more than he doesn't have the vocabulary. He doesn't have a moral compass.
Yeah, no, I think you're right about that. It's more or less the same thing. And the lack of a moral compass means that you don't know which way to go. So basically, you give up on going anywhere, and you just focus in on yourself. Like you take your own interests and inclinations as the truth of morality. And we know people like this in our lives, right? They just change their story based on whatever is in their own interest. And so there's a lack of consistency and coherence in their worldview. And I just want to point out that's totally different from almost everyone else we can think of who has been president of the United States. Whatever party you're in, George W. Bush talked the language of morality. So did Obama. The only other character I can think of that's similar to this kind of Trump character is Nixon, in our recent history. that we know also did the same kind of thing, where it was all about grievance and resentment. It's about self-interest and not morality. But then think of the difference between Bush and Obama, right? And these are quite different folks with different policies, but both of them were deeply grounded in morality. And you know what? The other part of this is they read books. Whatever you think about George W. Bush, he would talk about ideas in a way that Trump doesn't. And that's a huge difference, a psychological kind of moral difference.
I don't want to argue this next point other than to say, and believe me, when Nixon resigned, I remember sitting, watching it, and applauding, and maybe even crying a little bit because it was such a wonderful moment. All right, so I have no sympathy for Nixon. I will say that I think Nixon had a moral compass other than when it came to himself. In other words, I think he had some sense of right and wrong. Didn't agree with it. But I think, he kind of had a moral vision, but he got messed up when it came to himself. I don't want to necessarily argue that point with you. I just, even Nixon.
It could be, and this is, it's actually motivation of the book, is that Trump seems to be unique. I mean, I think taking your friendly suggestion there, like even Nixon, right, was in the mainstream, and Trump isn't. And let me just throw this on the table too, in light of the lead up here, the intro with Will Smith. Trump is a celebrity. He starts out as a celebrity real estate developer, gets a TV show. The focus of that world is all about attention, right? It's not about truth. It's not about right or wrong. It's about getting some people to notice you. And that's how, the Trump brand works. It's about put your name on the side of a building, even if the building's falling down. If your name is there, that's success somehow. And I think that's part of our culture of celebrity, and it's a Hollywood, this is kind of deep in our culture. We got this problem across the board with people that want to be famous for being famous, right? Like, well, what do they stand for? We don't know, but they're just famous,
Yeah, no, I think that's true. I also think that's a real failing of our contemporary society, is that we somehow pay so much attention to people who are famous for being famous that, but I'm old, so I have a different perspective on things. I want to go back to a point you made earlier, though. And you said that, essentially you said that the Constitution protects us and protected us against Trump. I need to ask you, is the Constitution strong enough to protect us? Because frankly, I see the Constitution getting beat around pretty good by Donald Trump. And he has now built a group of acolytes, a group of supporters, a group of followers that like to punch the Constitution as well.
Yeah, no, this is why this is a dangerous time, and I'm as alarmed as you are, I think, about the risk. And last year, January 6th, sort of like history was in the balance that day. The good news story is that Trump moved on, and the system seemed to hold in place. But history's not written. That's why we need to keep talking and thinking about this. In the book, like half the story is about the Constitution, frankly. Like, what's working, how has the Constitution evolved and improved, because it has. And I think that's important to remember, that we've eliminated tyranny in our history. We had slavery woven into the Constitution, and that's the most obvious and kind of evil form of tyranny we could imagine. One person owning another. Well, we got rid of that. Well, that's good news. It's important to remember the success that we've had and the stability of our system. But, when you take a big picture history, looking all the way back to the ancient Greeks, you learn that none of this good stuff lasts forever. So, things could go horribly wrong, but that's why we need to remain vigilant. That's why we need to think carefully about what we're witnessing, and do our darndest to make sure that our democracy remains in place for the next generation.
Well, you mentioned earlier, you said, after January 6th, the attempt was made, Trump moved on, but my concern is that Trump is trying to move back. You mentioned, the democracy held after the insurrection. But I will suggest to you it held then, but will it hold the next time? Because I anticipate some next attack on the Constitution, next attack on democracy. Again, Trump's followers are very vocal now and have become empowered and have not given up the ghost on this whole thing. I guess the bottom line, which you've already ascertained, is I'm really nervous about the future.
Yeah, no, I am too. And it's, again, we can't predict, right? But we can take steps, and the steps I would suggest, how do we make sure that our system holds, right? How do we make sure that a system doesn't give itself over to tyranny? Well, obviously we need strong constitutional brakes on all of this. So hopefully, one of the things I'm keeping my eye on is the January 6th commission, the folks that are investigating this. We need to hear their report, and we need to see what comes out of that whole process. And we need, there are, by the way, there are good people in office. So part of, when I'm doing this research on this, I sometimes get a very bleak view of humanity. Like, oh my God, everyone's about self-interest, and nobody cares about truth, and so. Well, actually, that's not true. There's lots of good people up and down the chain of command. It's the county clerks, it's the people that recounted the votes. Even that weird recount in Arizona, the result showed that Trump had lost in Arizona, and it was some partisans involved in that. Of course, they didn't all accept the outcome. I don't know. So we need to, celebrate and reinforce the good people that are doing good work, and then we all need to do that. I mean, every citizen in our country needs to be rereading the Constitution, rereading the Federalist Papers, rethinking about the history of our country, and paying attention to the news. That's another thing, is we need to kind of wake up and tune in. All of us do.
Well, again, my distress about America is paying attention to what news do you pay attention to. Most Americans getting their news from social media anymore, which is nothing but a partisan, from both sides actually, partisan positioning. Most people live in the news world of their choice. Most people are, Fox News, MSNBC news people. They get either Fox's point of view or MSNBC's point of view, neither of which is the complete and total picture. Again, I repeat myself. I'm old. I mean, the days of Walter Cronkite just sort of telling you that's the way it is are long gone, and that scares me.
Yeah, no, and you're right. I mean, a bit of historical perspective reminds us again that there's always been fake news and alternative facts. Think about slavery in our country, right? Where there were people who literally believed that human beings were subhuman inferiors who deserved to be enslaved. Well, what news were they reading? Which Bible were they consulting? And, Lincoln pointed this out, right? That the abolitionists and the slaveholders both quote the same Bible to each other. So, this is a perennial problem. And if you don't mind a quick, reference all the way back to Plato, most people forget, how ugly the world that Plato lived in was. But there was a war going on at the time. There had been a plague in Athens that kind of destroyed the infrastructure of Athens. And then Socrates came along trying to speak truth to power, and they murdered Socrates. I'm laughing because it's frustratingly true about history and human nature, is that the truth doesn't always win. And it's the worry I have, and I talk with my students about this, is, well, we can't give up hope. The history lessons remind us that there's terrible, terrible things that happen, and we could end up feeling kind of hopeless. But another lens on history shows us that there has been progress, and there are good news stories. We just need to tune in and make sure we're thinking about both sides and the totality of the picture. And again, I say, and Howard, I've been around a long time too, and there's moments when I can feel quite hopeless. But without hope, then what is there, right? So we need to think about what can we do as citizens and voters and human beings to continue the work of progress in our world. And I think we can empower ourselves that way.
Before I let you go, there's one issue you just glossed over a second or two ago, and I want to touch on it. and that is the issue of religion. We're talking about tyrants, using that word. Tyrants. Trump, for example. Trump tried to didn't do a good job of it in my mind, but he tried to tap into religion in this country. I mean, we remember the incident in front of the St. John's Church with the Bible and all that kind of stuff. I mean, he tried to tap into that, and he has had and still has huge support for the evangelicals. What role does religion play in all of this?
It's huge. I have at least a chapter and other bits and pieces in the book where I talk about this issue. There's a view of religion that some people have, which thinks that God is a tyrant, that views, that it's God's power divorced from God's goodness in a way, right? This is a mistaken understanding of God, a mistaken understanding of religion, but people have it, right? And the tyrant, the person, the human beings that want to be tyrants often have wrong theology, like they're just theologically illiterate in a sense, right? And including morally inarticulate, morally illiterate. They also have a misplaced and broken theology. So one solution is to have our religious communities, our religious figures, remind us that what matters about the divinity is not greatness, but goodness. I'm saying this deliberately, like riffing on, "Make America Great Again" kind of motto. It needs to be "Make America Good Again." It's like MAGA. We need to change the G from great to good, and that actually is part of the work of religion, I think. So, again, I think in terms of hope and progress, there are religious communities that are making this point, and we need to listen to them. But of course, recognizing that people often have had confused and terrifyingly ugly views of religion too, right? So, nonetheless, I think it's a great line of questioning about this, that tyranny opens us on to all kinds of questions about religion, ethics, history, and all of us would do better if we thought more carefully about those things.
I want to be open and honest and above board with you. I'm stealing two things from you today, all right? Because I love "Make America Good Again." I love that is a great way of readjusting the MAGA approach. Make America not great again, make America good again. I like that. Also, as my audience knows, I do some lay preaching on the weekends, and you have just given me a sermon, "Is God a Tyrant?" That's going to be, my parishioners can expect that at some point after I do some prepping on that, because that's actually an interesting concept. I like that.
Yeah.
But I want you to know, I want you, in all fairness, I want you to know I'm stealing those two things from you.
Very good. Feel free. That question, "Is God a tyrant?" That's again an age-old question. Plato thought about that question. So it's the ancient tyrants, they wanted to be gods. They literally thought they could be gods on earth and rule over everyone. And Plato and the ancient Greek theologians said, "You know what? You misunderstood God. If you think God rules over people, and if you think you deserve to be God, you really have a problem." So you'll be right. The 2,500-year story there, if you had talked with your parishioners about that.
But it's an interesting concept, and I would guess if you phrased it differently, if you ask people if they would be acceptable to having a tyrant run the country, they would say if he's a good tyrant. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think, which is kind of the thing about God. I don't get too religious here, but kind of like God. Your point is well taken. God may be a tyrant, but is he a good tyrant? Does he have goodness with his greatness? I mean, I know the very first debate I ever, formal debate I ever did, I was in junior high school. And it was an actual debate, and the debate was, I remember this very well, resolved a limited, benevolent dictatorship is the best form of government. Limited, benevolent dictatorship. And I think a lot of people would concur with that. Just like I think people would say, a tyrant's okay as long as it's a good tyrant. So,
and often what that means is as long as he's our tyrant, right? So it's like
exactly.
As long as the tyrant's doing our business, taking care of our business, This again, that was actually Plato's proposed solution. I think it's wrong. So we could have that debate if you want. But Plato, has this idea of a philosopher king. That was the benevolent tyrant. And through the early modern period, that was the idea of kingship. In Britain and elsewhere. And the American founders knew that history, and they said, "Hold on a minute, that's just the wrong answer." The benevolent tyrant, the benevolent despot, that's a problem because, as James Madison kind of suggested, the minute you put power in one person's hands, it gets corrupted. The very idea that one person can solve all our problems, that's the problem, right? It's got to be distributed power with checks and balances. But again, there's a sense that, like, as long as he's our tyrant, we're okay with it. Well, that's false. That's wrong.
It's a good point, though. And I literally remember someone saying to me one time, I asked about a public official around here. I was doing I said, is so-and-so, is he a crook? And the answer I got was, well, yes, but he's our crook. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that makes it all right. Boy, I wish we had more time. This is good conversation. We're probably getting too deep into the weeds for some of the audience, but I enjoy it. The book is Tyranny from Plato to Trump, Fools, Sycophants, and Citizens, and really worth the read. I appreciate it. Thanks for joining us today, and maybe we'll do it again sometime.
Yeah, Howard, great to talk with you, and hello to your audience again. Thank you very much for having me on.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Andrew Fiala is a professor of philosophy and a director of the Ethics Institute at Fresno State. And again, the book is Tyranny from Plato to Trump. It sounds, dry, academic, what have you, but it's really right on point with where we are in America today. And I thank him for joining us today. Some good conversation. Wow, 9:40, 22 of the hour. Better get to some news updates here. We've got Metro News. Billy DeFabio's got morning sports, and then we'll kind of glide along for a few minutes until Bob Westfall joins us, and we talk about what's working over at the Big Seven. This is the Watchdog Morning Show for a Monday.
West Virginia Metro News, I'm Carrie Hudasek. The WVU Foundation is collecting donations for Russian and Ukrainian students attending West Virginia University. B.J. Davison, Executive Vice President, leads the effort.
For these students who are dealing with these issues, we hope we can lighten their burden somehow.
He says sanctions are preventing some students from accessing cash. They're also unable to enter the war-torn area. There's a new statewide initiative aimed at highlighting the need for more mental health services on college campuses. West Virginia's Advisory Council of Students Chair Alyssa Park says it's called the West Virginia Green Bandana Initiative. Read more about it at wvmetronews.com. PEIA Interim Executive Director Jason Haught says they've heard the hospitals loud and clear and want to work with them after a bill that would have increased inpatient PEIA reimbursement rates failed to pass the state legislature this year.
We are aware of the concerns from the hospital, and we do wish to try to accommodate their concerns to the best of our ability with the resources that we have available. We are looking at the various means that we have to do so.
That's Haught speaking to members of the PEIA Finance Board last week. A tractor-trailer crash on I-77 in Raleigh County sends one person to the hospital. The wreck happened just after 6:30 Sunday night near Gent. And interviews are set for today for 9 practicing attorneys, circuit judges, and prosecutors who have all applied to fill the vacant position on the state Supreme Court. You're listening to Metro News, the voice of West Virginia. Greenboro County resident Mark Bowe and his West Virginia-based crew have become a hit traveling across the country, demolishing 100-plus-year-old cabins and repurposing them. Bowe says season 13 of the hit show Barnwood Builders is ready to launch. 500 million people will have access to the Magnolia Channel, and we are holding and waving that West Virginia flag, baby. More than 500 cabins have been repurposed since the start of the show. From the Metro News Anchor Desk, I'm Carrie Hudasek.
At home, the Penguins crushed the Detroit Red Wings 11-2. This is the Pens head coach, Mike Sullivan.
You know, it's nice to score goals. It's good for a lot of our guys. It's good for their confidence. It's good for our power play. There's a number of positives that you can take out of it.
Geno Malkin led the way with a hat trick. Penguins 6-3-1 in their last 10 games will host the New York Rangers on Ben Roethlisberger night on Tuesday. College basketball Sunday. North Carolina beat St. Peter's 69-49. Kansas all over Miami 76-50. This is Kansas head coach Bill Self.
We had about 2 good plays turned into 4, which turned into 8, which turned into 16. That was about as well as we could play the second half. And, you know, these guys earned it. So proud of them and proud for our program. And
so your final 4 is set. North Carolina will face Duke. That's a great matchup. And Kansas will meet the Wildcats of Villanova. In sunny Florida, the Yankees over the Pirates 7-4. Aaron Judge with 2 home runs for the New Yorkers. I'm Bill DeFabio on sports, and we are the Watchdog.
Why? Just think about it.
Steel. Find yours at steelusa.com. The majority of steel products sold in America are made in America of U.S. and foreign materials. Batteries and chargers are sourced internationally.
The energy industry is fueling the local economy. There are hundreds of high-paying jobs available now in the Ohio Valley. Join WTRF and the Ohio Valley Oil and Gas Association for the 2022 Ohio Valley Energy Job Fair on March 29th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Highlands Event Center, presented by the Stingray Companies. Meet with businesses from industries like oil and gas, electric utility, environmental services, and more. For more information, visit WTRF.com.
We are compassionate.
We are focused.
We are confident.
We are dependable.
We are resilient.
We are skilled.
We are empathetic.
We are knowledgeable.
We are respectful.
We are here.
For you and your family.
We are close to home. We are
WVU Medicine.
Hello, Ohio Valley. This is Kate Delaney inviting you to join me overnight here on the Watchdog. Whether it's talking to big names in entertainment or sports, discussing the latest political news, or just chatting about life, I'll be here to keep you company on the Watchdog, WVLY AM 1370, FM 97.7, or online at watchdognetwork.com.
If you want to hear it again, catch a Morning Show Rewind for some of the best bits and interviews from the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe. They're on the podcast page at watchdognetwork.com or search The Watchdog on Apple Podcasts.
Broadcasting from the Ohio Valley, talking about the Ohio Valley. We're live and local. This is the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe.
Watchdog Morning Show is brought to you in part by WVU Medicine, 13 to the hour here on the Watchdog Morning Show. You know, one of the fun things about betting on your favorite sports with FanDuel is that you can always find new player props or game props that are just all kinds of fun and enjoyable. And that's what's really cool about FanDuel. And what's neat is you can combine your prop bets from multiple games and now even multiple sports. I mean, that is really cool. It's called Same Game Parlay Plus. You only find them on FanDuel. So let's say you want to play some NBA player prop bets. You can do that. Then you can combine them with your favorite NHL scorers for a chance to score an even bigger payout using the Same Game Parlay Plus. Now, I got to say, I think that is a pretty cool way to help increase your payday and increase your fun as well. If you don't want to build your own Same Game Parlay, that's okay. Check out their popular Same Game Parlays already set for you. You just join the bets that other people are jumping on. Earlier this season, Over 14,000 customers won a total of $1.1 million during the Bucks at Lakers game by playing the same game parlays. Now, if you are new to FanDuel, now's the time to get yourself a FanDuel account. Download FanDuel and use my name, Monroe, in the promo code box, MONROE. When you use it for the first time, you'll get $150 in site credit guaranteed for just placing a $5 bet. So make every moment more. And download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Just use my name, promo code Monroe, and they'll know that we sent you. I have to remind you, as always, you must be 21 or older, physically present in West Virginia. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit is required. The bonus is issued as a non-withdrawable site credit that expires 14 days after they put it into your account. If you don't use it by then, it goes. Restrictions do apply. See full terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. And remember, if you got a gaming problem or a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. FanDuel Sportsbook, more ways to win. Just about 10 before the hour, check in with Bob Westfall from the Big 7 here in only a moment or two. But before I do that, we've only got 5 weeks left before the May 3rd primary election in Ohio. And they are still redrawing the redistricting maps. It is very likely that there will be some kind of a change in the election date. It's not yet decided, but it's likely. Our Ohio News reporter, Mary Sherman, takes a look at what some people are saying ought to be done if we have to delay the election.
With just 5 weeks to go before the May 3rd primary and Ohio's legislative redistricting debacle still not settled, voting rights groups say not moving the primary is illogical. Today is the deadline for independent map makers hired by the Ohio Redistricting Commission to create a new state legislative map, after 3 others were tossed out by the Ohio Supreme Court for being unconstitutional. The Secretary of State says it's too late for state legislative races to appear on the primary ballot, and some Republicans suggest holding a second primary. But Deidre Reese with the Ohio Coalition on Black Civic Participation and the Ohio Unity Coalition says that would put an extraordinary burden on local election officials.
It's very difficult to carry out elections. It's very labor intensive. It's been very challenging to recruit poll workers. We've had some pretty good elections despite some challenges, so we don't want to end up going backwards.
Ohio lawmakers have the authority to reschedule the primary. Senate Bill 316, introduced last week by 2 Democrats, would move it from May 3rd to June 28th. Meryl Neiman with Ohio Progressive Action Leaders says 2 primaries could cost taxpayers upwards of $20 million. And she adds it would be confusing and possibly disenfranchise thousands of voters.
There's nothing sacrosanct about May 3rd, and already acknowledged that they won't be able to hold the complete primary then. So it makes a lot more sense financially and equitably to have one primary, to have it at a later date.
Meanwhile, in a federal lawsuit, Republican voters called for a 3rd set of rejected maps to be used in the May 3rd primary. Reese contends the entire dilemma could have been avoided had the Redistricting Commission delivered fair districts as required by the Ohio Constitution.
It's maddening that we're still here and that we're now literally in a constitutional crisis because they haven't done what they should have done. They just dug their heels in to say, we'll just have 2 elections, and even if it confuses people, oh well. And that just doesn't serve the interests of the citizens of the state.
By the end of the day, the Ohio Secretary of State must respond to a federal court's request for information on deadlines for supplemental ballots and holding the May primary, as well as the particulars of holding a second primary for legislative races. This story was produced with support from the Carnegie Corporation of New York. For Ohio News Connection, I'm Mary Sherman. Find our 8 Trust indicators to support transparency and accuracy at publicnewsservice.org.
We have been following this Ohio redistricting story quite a good bit. Deadline day again today. They keep making these deadlines, missing the deadline. Supreme Court gets mad. Yikes. Susan Tebben from the Ohio Capital Journal has been with us frequently. I think she may be back tomorrow to give us a sense of where we go next with this situation in Ohio. Where we go next here on the Watchdog Morning Show is over to the award-winning WTRF TV news team and talk to Bob Westfall. Good morning, Bob.
Morning, Howard. How are you?
I'm good. How was your weekend?
My weekend was uneventful, but as for others here at the station, it was quite the weekend.
It was a big winning weekend for quite a few folks over there.
Yeah.
John Lynch wins again, another award for Johnny.
Yep. John won AP of the Virginia's best website. So we took that one. We also took a Heritage Award, West Virginia Heritage Award for Catherine Guyon's Veterans Voices. And then, of course, Brenda with the big award. I'm drawing a blank on what
Lifetime Achievement.
Yeah, Lifetime Achievement.
Lifetime Achievement.
Big weekend for 7 News. All well-deserved and everything. Just really excited for everybody that was involved. So it's a really great weekend. I just, I didn't go. I didn't get to go, but they sent out an email. So I sat all morning sitting and waiting for that email to come in. So really good news, really great. And the simple fact is it's well-deserved because we've got the best storytellers around. Talked to an individual about a week ago. Well, actually, it's probably been 2 weeks ago. And he really appreciated the stories that we do, the people stories, as he said. So that's something I really look forward to, is telling people stories. I mean, anybody can sit in a city council meeting or a courtroom, and get something. But we go out and we get the stories, we get the people stories, and that's the biggest thing. That's important.
Yeah,
for us.
listen, I love that phrase because I think that's a story. You're storytellers, and I think that's the best journalists, the best reporters are, in the end, are the best storytellers.
Right.
With no disrespect to Joe Friday, just the facts, ma'am, is fine, but the facts have meaning. The facts go beyond just the dry facts to what does it mean to the people involved or the community or whatever. And that's where storytelling gets involved. So I think it's a great phrase. I love that phrase.
So, yeah, it was a great weekend. Really proud of the people I work with. So that's exciting. And it's nice to get noticed, to know your peers are noticing you as well. So, yeah, it was a great weekend.
Brenda Danehart deserves a Lifetime Achievement Award. She has done a tremendous job as leader of that newsroom for a lot of years. And, she does a great job. She works with newcomers. She works with old-timers and is able to pull everything together and really lead the newsroom. And she deserves that Lifetime Achievement Award. I say that with no qualms or contradictions. However, she's been getting a lot of these Lifetime Achievement kind of things lately. If I were her, that'd make me nervous. Are they trying to tell me something? These are things you get when it's, that.
I think you're just jealous, Howard.
Well, there is that. That could be. It's very possible.
Howard, nobody has said that there's anything wrong with me. I'm hoping that I'm not going to pass away or anything. I'll just hang tough for a few more years here, if I can.
All I'm saying, Brenda, is sometimes when they start handing out these Lifetime Achievement Awards, it's like, what's your hurry? Here's your hat.
I know what you're saying, but thank you for the kind words. I came out just because that's just, it means a lot coming from you, and all of your years of experience. So it means a lot coming from you, and I just appreciate the kind words.
And beyond that,
well, Brenda, and I mean this sincerely. I want to say this: you really are a leader, and that's what that position really entails. You may be the best reporter or the best anchor or whatever, but that's not your job. Your job is to be the leader of the team, to pull people together, to get them to do their best. And I've watched you in action in recent years, and you just excel at that so well. You really pull that team together and get everybody to do their very best, and that's what you're getting an achievement award for, because that's what your job is, and you've really done a great job at that. And I don't want to sound too sappy about it, but I really think you are a great leader of that team over there.
Thank you so much. That, like I said before, the words are very kind and mean a lot coming from you, so I really appreciate that.
Well, Brenda, I remember when you were just barely a cubby reporter.
I remember it too, and boy, did I have a lot to learn. Gee, many Christmas. That's when, you look back now, and DK and I were talking, how can 40 plus years have passed for us? And it just doesn't seem like it's been, decades upon decades of being here. At least it doesn't to me, and I know it doesn't to DK either. It's just, But we're going to hang tough. I've promised her, and she's promised me, I think, that she's not going to retire until I do. So I'm going to hold her to that, and we're going to stick together for a few more years.
That's good. That's good. Well, listen, congratulations to you personally and to the whole team. It is an example of what a good team you have working for you, that you continue to garner awards, and that's a real testament to you, but also to the team. And again, congratulations, Brenda.
Thank you very much. I have the best team imaginable in every single position, so thank you for saying that.
You're counting Bob there, too?
I wouldn't.
I am counting Bob. Yes, I am, sir. Yes.
That's debatable, but anyway. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about our future because nobody herds cats as good as Brenda Dainhardt. So,
Chief Cat, I got you. Bob, 30 seconds. Quick, what are you working on real fast?
all right, a couple things we're working on. House Rep Ferguson is working on naming part of Route 7 after Sheriff Fred Abdallah, passed away last month. Be a nice piece. It'd be the stretch of Route 7 that passes through Stratton, which was, of course, Fred's hometown. So that's exciting. I love that one. We've got a possible plea agreement at 10:30. Jonathan Wiles, former Wheeling police officer. So we'll have an update on that. And the symphony's taking it to the road. We're going to preview an event that's going on at Bethlehem Temple. So a little bit of that. Of course, weather, we're going to keep following that. St. Peter's from New Jersey, their NCAA tournament ended, but we've got a Final Four, so a little bit of news, sports, weather.
All right, catch it all at noon, 5, 6, 10, 11, 5:30 statewide show. Now on the doubly award-winning WTRF.com, and, of course, always on the apps, which you carry in your pocket, WTRF's news app and Storm Tracker 7. Bob, we got to run. Talk to you tomorrow. Biffy, back tomorrow morning, 7 o'clock. You're with me, I trust.
Back for Tuesday.
Keep on doing it till we get it right.
That could be a long time.
Indeed. ABC News already in progress.
The Watchdog is FM 98.1, AM 1600 WKKX Wheeling, FM 97.7, AM 1370 WVLY Moundsville.
Regime change in Russia.
Okay, Biffy. Made it through. It wasn't too bad. Dr. Fiala, I don't know if he's doctor or professor, so I didn't want to call him anything, but Mr. Fiala was pretty good. Maybe a little esoteric for people, but I enjoyed it. Yeah, I thought he was good. You're sure you're okay? Yeah, I know I don't want to keep bugging you. You sound a little distressed, but you're okay this morning? Okay, all right. If anything bugging you, just let me know. I'm around. All right, I guess I'm going to be around here all day since I hear the little one in the other room. He's got a real stuffy nose. And he had it over the weekend, but it looks like it's getting worse, so he's not going to school, which means, and he wants to play science experiments, so I have a science kit I got him for Christmas. We're going to get out and do science experiments. God help me, I hope I don't blow something up. So that's my plan for the day. Any problems that you need me for, just give me a call. I'll be around. Otherwise, I'll just talk to you in the morning. All right. Thanks for your help, Biffy. I appreciate it, as always. All right. Back.
Agencies actively tracking down folks who owe the IRS. So if you think dodging them was stressful in the past, it's going to get a whole lot tougher. Optima Tax Relief has this advice. Don't wait. Solve your tax problems now before it's too late. Optima Tax Relief works to stop the demand letters, stop the aggressive collection actions, and stop the IRS collectors from targeting you. Ask Optima about the Fresh Start Initiative, one of the biggest breaks the IRS has ever offered. If you qualify, you could save thousands, and nobody knows this program better than they do. Optima is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, and they get results, having resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. Get a fresh start. Call today for your free consultation.
Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Following a 2-week pause, the U.S. and Israel are hoping to resume talks to revive the Iran nuclear deal. Both countries say there is new urgency because Iran may be just weeks away from creating enough weapons-grade uranium to build a nuclear weapon. ABC's Connor Finnegan is in Jerusalem.
Even if they have enough enriched uranium at weapons-grade levels, they'd still have to complete technical steps that are very complicated to produce a nuclear warhead that could fit on a missile that could carry it, etc. But that proximity to having enough weapons-grade material is what worries U.S. officials the most right now.
Federal prosecutors are set to wrap up their case this week against 4 men charged with conspiring to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer.
Testimony resumes Monday with an undercover FBI agent who prosecutors say infiltrated the group and accompanied them on a trip to scope out the second home of Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer.